Hi, everybody. Time now for the Monday Morning Analyst right here on the MMA Hour. Now, as I mentioned before, two disclaimers are always important. One, if you're listening on the audio podcast, don't change it yet. I'm going to get to some things that you are probably going to be able to enjoy before we get to the sort of nuts and bolts of the visual presentation. And number two, steady, consistent, perennial disclaimer. I do not present my findings to you as the authoritative findings, as the best findings, as the only findings. I present them to you as the best that I can do for whatever it's worth. I always encourage you to look at everybody else's findings and breakdowns and whatnot and draw your own conclusions from that. However, I will say if you watched the Monday Morning Analyst that we put out on Christmas Eve, I believe that that probably is the best one I've ever done. And I thought that a lot of the things that we had pointed out in that fight, including both how changes were made by Jon and what to expect, were both correct. We'll get to that a little bit later. So let me start things off. You can go to the screen here. I'm not going to break this one down. I just wanted to show it. Here is a picture. And again, if you're listening on the audio portion, don't change it just yet. Here is a picture. It's the final moment right before Carlos Condit taps. I want to show something here. And again, please don't change if you're listening to the audio side because we're going to skip back to some stuff here. But I just want to kick things off. I'm going to focus today on Jon Jones. But I want to look at this picture because why is this picture so terrifying? Think about your anatomy for a second. Your arms lay by your side, right? Where are they supposed to go? For the most part, they can go to the side. For the most part, they can go in front, right? If you retract your scapula properly, you can raise them up overhead. If you have good posture, you can raise it up overhead. But basically, this is the plane of movement here, right? This spot here. Where are they not supposed to go? Well, they can go a little bit behind your body, right? But they kind of stop there. So in jiu-jitsu, always think about where is a limb supposed to go and where is a limb not supposed to go. Wherever it's not supposed to go, take it that direction. Yeah? This one is interesting for two reasons. This Chiesa one is, well, three, I suppose. One is that it's one-handed. But here's just one thing I noticed. There are two things he's doing with this Kimura that I thought were just grisly. One is that the arm is being taken this direction, right? Your arm can only go, let me do it with this arm. Your arm can go in front a lot. Behind you, it can't really move all that well. So he takes it and puts it all the way behind him as if like his back is now flat on the mat. I mean, I'd be surprised if Carlos Condit has no shoulder injury just from taking it on that level. But he does something else, which is kind of sinister. He takes it that way at the same time. Now, why is that important? Because where is the shoulder supposed to go? In front, a little bit behind, but in front and to the side. Your shoulder can go this way too. Your hand can go across your body, but not very far. Kind of stops here versus where it's supposed to go. You have tons of mobility. What's amazing about this Kimura is that it's the maximum wrench in two of the worst possible directions. Steady behind him, steady off to the side as well. And moreover, as Chiesa brings that hand closer to his hip, he gets into an increasingly stronger position. The further he's out, the weaker he is. The more he brings it inside, the more he can begin to use this sort of pretty noticeably large back of his that was not really as prominent a display when he was a lightweight. You can see his lats here, right? Look at that. You got some solid musculature at this weight class. So what was really just amazing to me is, yes, everyone's like, oh, it's one-handed. That's kind of impressive. But go back to the Ally Quinta Kevin Lee breakdown that I did. What was one thing I noted is like Kevin Lee had the back a lot, but this thing where all these fighters are just constantly fishing for the rear naked choke rather than trying to attack the shoulder integrity. Now, I don't know how you set that up from the back, but this is sort of what I'm driving at here with the point. That's what I want to see. I want to see the shoulder integrity challenged if you can find a way to do it from the back. He's obviously doing it from Kimura, but it's just amazing. Maximum pull this way, maximum strain that way. Nasty, nasty stuff. Okay, forget all that. This slide should look familiar to you if you watched last week. Last week, I went back and I looked at 3 different fights. I looked at the first Cormier fight, the second Cormier fight, and then the first Gustafsson fight. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to see how Jon Jones changes within a fight, and then how Jon Jones changes between fights. And what I noticed was he adapts, two ways. He makes changes through the course of a contest, and then between contests takes all of those lessons and then adds in degrees of dynamism behind them, right? So it was adaptability two ways. I don't know how you could have watched this and possibly, again, I'm going to get things wrong a million times, but I think that was right on the money, if I do say so myself. Did you watch how he won the second one? We'll get to it in just a second. This was absolutely on display. Single shot, but high variance. Did you notice how much that was a part? He punches here, he kicks here, body shot here, changes stance here, then comes across, then clinches, then single shot here, then single shot here. Like, it's just always changing direction, rhythm, distance, the whole nine. Commonly on display. Plays with range and rhythm. A little bit less with range, although he does some of that too, which we'll look at, but a lot with the rhythm, you'll see. And maintains greater efficient offensive output. What did I say was the key? Gustafsson is the only fighter to numerically, to the head and to the body, to have outstruck Jon Jones in any of their fights. That was in their first one. The second one, obviously not even close. But in the first one, that was the only one. In every other fight, he had maintained a positive differential. You had to get in there and do that. So the thing is, Jon understands himself better than I do, of course, better than all of us do, I'm sure, and then takes those lessons and then builds on top of it. So let's build on top of it, shall we? Here is the way to understand this one. This is how you understand Saturday night. What did you notice about the first, what did you notice about the two Cormier fights? Cormier pursued, Jon retreated. In the first Gustafsson fight, it was mostly the exact opposite. It was Jon pushing into him and Gustafsson retreating. And how did Gustafsson win most of the rounds that he did, in fact, win? It's when Jon tried to set up his offense through a leg attack, he would either respond with his own, or if he tried to throw like a back leg teep, Gustafsson would blitz the pocket with his own boxing. That was really sort of the core of it. There's more than that, obviously, a lot more than that, but that was what he would do. That's how he got that one takedown that was famous. He just blitzed the pocket, picked him up and put him down. Blitz in the pocket, that's how he's able to land in boxing range. That's how he was able to do it. This time, I guess Gustafsson thought he needed to change it up, so he did all the pursuing. Like last time, clockwise circler. Johnny Jones, for the most part, did some circling counterclockwise, but for the most part, no matter the stance, just went in the same direction to evade it. But here's what he did. He absorbed the pressure. Gustafsson was constantly coming into him, and what Jones did was never let him use that to any kind of maximal effect. If Jon Jones was standing in the southpaw position and Gus tried to take the angle and launch his own right hand, right, by coming and taking the lead outside foot position, Jones immediately took it away. If Gustafsson tried to leap into position, Jon constantly circled out. If he was in the orthodox position, he just found a way to always be at the end of either his punch or his kicks, predominantly his kicks. He didn't use a whole lot of boxing. If Gustafsson really collapsed the pocket, Jon would greet him with a punch off into the body, or if he got really, really close, he'd either greet him with an elbow or he would clinch with him, and on the clinch, he'd go and work to the body. It was absorbing the pressure by being on the receiving end and taking away Gus's boxing. Gus's boxing was what, arguably, if you thought he won the first fight, or however you perceive it, certainly it's what he did well. He could never get it going. He could never get it going. Every time he tried to set the angle, he couldn't get the angle. Every time he tried to blitz the space, he couldn't do it. Every time he tried to get combinations going, he was disrupting that constantly by either moving away or impacting Gus's rhythm. Gus could never really get out of first or second gear because Jon Jones was either away from position or forcing Gustafsson to reset all the time. Secondly, boxing on his own terms. You're going to see this a little bit. He does some boxing, but as I mentioned before, not really a combination striker. What does he do? Single shots with high variance, this time boxing on his terms. He still does so much work off of his kicks. He does so much work off of a variety of from just any kind of striking. But you're going to see a few instances here where if he's going to box with Gustafsson, he's only going to do it when it's set up for him to be successful. Not even when it's neutral, and certainly not when it favors his opponent. Why is that important? I made this point once in a Monday Morning Analyst. What's one of the best ways to pass guard? One of the best ways to pass guard is by getting on your feet. You can pass guard on your knees, but it's much easier on your feet. A simple one is, if you're doing it with the gi, you grab their gi pants, you get your elbow inside, you stand, and there's a way to stand, of course, you have to do it the right way, otherwise you get your balance pulled. But once you stand, you have that elbow inside on the gi pants, you press the knee, and then you can immediately just move to the knee cut. Because once you're up, you can just break what they have on you much more easily. There's space to push below you, right? Getting on your feet. If someone is beginning to stand and wants to break, if they break your guard, that's not the end of the world. But if you're going to open your guard, you want to open your guard on your terms, not on theirs. It's the same principle. Jon Jones is willing to box with you on his terms, not on yours. So there is a little bit of boxing that he does, in part when he absorbs the pressure, but only in scenarios where he is virtually guaranteed to win. 3, he keeps the variance, but more body work. Go to 1445 of last week's video. In it, I point out something. I'll show it to you now. This is the first fight. Let me zoom in here a little bit here. This is the first fight between Jones and Gus. What did we notice here? And I'll pull up it even more. Jones is on top, Gus on bottom, yeah? Let's do this. What did we notice before? Let's see here. All right, for fuck's sake. Here. This. And in particular, this. Jon went to the head 115 times. He went to the body 37. He went to the leg 65. At 14:45 last week, I said, if you go back and you watch the first and second Cormier fights, he still favored certain things, but he had a more balanced attack. There was more balance between the body and the leg. Well, lo and behold, what did we find out here? Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Like clockwork, Jon Jones is on top here. How about that? 52 to the head, because he still favors that. 22 to the body, 28 to the leg. Almost a negligible difference, and then 15 and 18 in terms of how they landed. In the first fight, he went to the leg twice as often as he went to the body. This time, he does a much more balanced attack, and it's sneaky how he does it. He goes and does it a lot of different interesting ways. One of it, which is, if Gustafsson got too close, he would clinch with him, tie him up with that left overhook, sometimes try to wrench, but he really couldn't get it. Maybe a wrist control on the other side, or a collar tie. He would drive the knee and then push off, right? That's one way he got it. The other one was when he was absorbing the pressure, he would go to the body and then circle out. Go to the body and then circle out. One last point about this. Remember how in the first fight with Gustafsson, what was one reason why he was successful? Jon would throw a teep kick or something, and Gustafsson would blitz the pocket with his boxing. Watch what he does this time. He made this adaptation Jon did in the first fight. He would throw his kick and then immediately get his hands up to post on a shoulder, to post on a bicep, and circle out so that he could throw without being just constantly blitzed upon all the time, like a quarterback moving inside the pocket before making the final read for the throw. In this fight, Gustafsson only one time blitzes the pocket with a Superman punch and connects. In every other scenario, basically, he can't get anything going because Jon throws and blocks, throws, blocks, and circles. He took every lesson from the first one and brought it to the second one. He took every lesson from the first and second Cormier fights and brought it to the second one. Let's take a look at some of the slides here. Oh, one last point about this. If you go and look at this real quickly, this is Jon Jones on top. These are his numbers in the fight. Let's see here. So you can see he threw 28 of 39 in the first round, 26 of 42 in the second, 29 of 42, and then 27 of 49. Remember what I said was he likes to maintain greater offensive efficient output. In the first fight, as you can see, they were pretty comparable. Not so much in the second round. First round was a little bit weird too, but for the most part, they were pretty tight. And again, Gustafsson ultimately outstruck him in terms of head into the body. Look at the second fight here real quickly. Look at this. Don't forget the third round, but just look at these two for just a moment right here. 19 of 36, so Jon was a little bit hesitant, but he had more than the 13 that Gustafsson did. And let's put this up. This is the big one to me. This is ultimately why he won. Look at that. That 51 is a greater attempted output. He scored more in the first fight in one of the rounds. That's a greater attempted output at 51 than any round previously when she had fought Gustafsson. But the real key in absorbing that pressure and getting his defensive shell up and circling out and only boxing on his terms, look at that. 48 attempts from Gustafsson. Eight single digits. In the first fight, there isn't a round where he doesn't have double digits. 19, 15, 26, 26, and 24. He had a third of the offense in the second. Let's see, in the first fight, he had 15 he scored. He had half that in this one. That's what I'm talking about. All the lessons from the first one, bring them back and then add a new layer. Yeah? All right. Let's take a look at what that means in practice. Okay, here we are early. Gustafsson is going to try and set the angle. Here he is in the right-handed stance, Jones in the left-handed stance. You're going to see this over and over again. Gustafsson circling clockwise, Jones absorbing the pressure, following him clockwise, but there are some tricks that he pulls off. So watch, this is just, you're going to look at this and say there's nothing here, there's everything here. Gustafsson tries to set the angle, he's stepping out, tries to come inside. Jon gets a hand up right here, blocks, and then immediately gets away, moves away. And by the way, this is fun, hits him with a kick, and then disrupts his rhythm here. See that? Steps away, half beat, bink, catches him. Let's move to the next one. I think it's right behind it, as a matter of fact. Let's see this one. What does he do here? I'm looking. Oh, yeah. When Gustafsson got too close, Jon times it. He looks at the parry. See? Gustafsson comes over with the parry here. You can see that here. He parries down and tries to come on top of it. Jon reads it as he gets in too close, misses with the elbow, but then clinches here. Put the thumbnail back up, please. So when he got too close, play with range, play with rhythm. If it's in tight, lock up with him till you're ready to break, and then break clean. Yeah? He does it again right here. You can put it back up. Does it again here. Gets a little bit impeded, but comes over the top and then clinches. Boom. And that one doesn't hit, but this is the point. Eventually they do. All right. Let's look here. Southpaw, south, sort of a square stance, but a southpaw stance. Let's see what happens here. Gustafsson tries to set the angle. Jon moves back, changes angles to take it away too. So Gustafsson trying to get that lead foot here on the outside of this lead foot. What's one way Jon gets out of the way? He circles, and then he also just changes stance on him. So now that whole angle is gone. It looks like nothing, but it's everything if you just can't get going. He's a rhythm boxer. He likes to be in there. He likes to be active. He likes to set things up. Boom, 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 sticking and moving, sticking and moving. If he can't get that first burst going, he just can't, there's going to be no second. There's going to be no third. Jon's constantly finding ways to take it away from him, right? Put the thing up, please, if you don't mind. Yep, here we are. Da-da-da. Let's see this one. Let's see, dunk. Okay, here's a great one. Okay, go ahead. From the southpaw stance, he goes back to his old traditional weapons, kicks him to the leg, immediately puts the hand on the shoulder to frame so he can't blitz the space anymore. You take that for granted. He wasn't doing that in the first fight, and Gustafsson was charging in. Every time, the block is there. Every time. Sets up again, goes back. Again, always touching him to see where he's at. Always up here and in different rhythms too, keeping his feet light and under him. Gustafsson tries to push in, boxing on his terms to the body, gets his hands up to block, and is out of the way. Jesus Christ. And then Gustafsson comes back in. Bink changes up. So before he's throwing to the body, now he's throwing to the outside. By the way, he was southpaw before. He changes stances as Gus comes in. Bink, and then gets out of the way. Nothing hits him. That's how you chip a guy away. Now, what you've seen in the last two stance switches is Jon's been like, kind of like posturing on the outside. Here's one thing he does in this fight actually very well. Not these last two examples were not great examples of that. But one thing he does really well is he doesn't often change stances until he's disguised it. Joseph Valtellini has an amazing YouTube channel. I keep talking about it because it's so good. Shouts to Bazooka Joe, and he's got a video about this where if you're just posing off with a guy and then you're switching, it's not valuable, but you're really limiting its value. It's more better is to like switch stance by shifting or through combination or going neutral for a time as you move and then settling out. So what Jon will do is often, if he is standing in southpaw, his left leg will be the one that does the teep kick. And when it does and it lands, he just comes into that position right there. He just uses that to settle into that new stance rather than being like this and then being like this. It's really cool. Let's see, where are we? Still first round. Let's watch what happens here. Now, Gustafsson gets in boxing range. Jon slips and immediately just decides to clinch. So where does Jon find himself? He finds himself in the danger zone, doesn't he? One of the most important things is to recognize the space you're occupying. What options does this leave me? And if you're going to circle on the outside, you have to know how much distance you have behind you, how much distance you have to the side and in front of you. And when he sees that Gustafsson gets pretty close, because you just can't, unless you run from a person, it's hard to just maintain proper position away, and you're close to the fence, and he tries to come in, just slip, and then clinch up. And then, from there, fire the underhook, boom, shot to the body, watch him break it. He's going to go through here. Gustafsson gets away, but he pushes him off too. And this is my point. Let's see where he started. What stance did he start in? Started in the orthodox stance. Where does he finish? Let's see. Finishes in southpaw. See what I'm talking about? He disguises it through position, right? This is what I mean when folks are like, I made a point about this, like some people are just going to think he's a cheat forever, and I'm not here to talk you into it. I'm not here to talk you out of it because it's just hard to parse exactly how much benefit somebody could be getting from something, or if they once took it but they no longer are, how much benefit do they retain? Like, it's just really hard to know where that begins and ends if you really believe that's a component of it. But that right there, we're talking still the first round, 3 minutes in, and you're doing things like that, sophisticated stance switching. It looks simple, but it's not. Most guys don't do it this way. He does it in a way where he is just moving from position to position without telegraphing it for the most part. There were a couple of ones where he telegraphed it, but where he does it like that, where you have an engagement, and then when you break the engagement and you're still trying to think about everything else, he has naturally gone to a different position that you have to pick up on fast. He just disguises and camouflages all of these changes and transitions. Put the thumbnail up, please. Bump, bada, bump, bump. Thumbnail, please. Porfa. There we are. Move that away. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, let's see here. And then, what do we have here? Okay, remember this before? Go ahead. Jon knows he's in a bit of a compromised position here in terms of his spot. Let me do this like this. Spot along the cage, right? 2 black lines. Just like that. He's in the bad spot. He kind of knows that, but he has a lot of lateral space depending on how he wants to use it. So what does he do? He strikes on the half beat. Gustafsson, look at that. Foot comes up. Look at that. Bink catches him. It's a little slow, but catches it. Now watch what he does. This is in the first fight where Gustafsson would have blitzed the pocket. Now watch. Whoop. Puts his hands up and gets away and circles out. And there's nothing to get him now. Taking all the lessons. Let's keep going. This is the top of the, I don't know, second round? I'm not sure what it is. Here comes Gustafsson. Let's see, Jon's in orthodox. Gustafsson's circling like he always does, counterclockwise, right? He gets hit with a kick. Jon pushes away, changes to southpaw. This is what I'm talking about. Look. Kicks, southpaw. See that? Let me zoom in a little bit here. Look here. Orthodox, kick, southpaw. Disguising it, camouflaging it. Thumbnail, please. Oops. Let's see here. So I mentioned boxing on his terms. You can put it up. When does he want to box? He wants to box when it favors him and not anybody else. Parries, as you see Gustafsson coming in, he parries the top, throws a shot to the top, and immediately doesn't just dive into position. He kind of Superman punches almost in place and then stays at the end of his range. Thumbnail back up. I got to go through these here pretty quickly because I'm running out of time. And then one more time real quickly. Sorry about that, guys in the back. I know it's annoying. Watch this. Kick to the body. This looks exactly like the first fight. Gustafsson with blitz. Not this time, Satan. Bink. And by the way, doesn't always stance switch from the back. Keeps it. Okay, thumbnail. Dun, da, da, da. Let's see. Which one is this? So another thing he did was mixing up takedowns, and a lot of them, I thought Gustafsson did a really good job. You can put it now. Did a really good job of taking that away from him, but it was at least setting things up. So here in the second round, you see Gustafsson coming in. Look at him trying to set the angle, and he gets kind of close. So Jon, I'm only going to box you on my terms. I'm not boxing you on your terms. So then he just goes for the takedown. Now, Gustafsson does a good job of breaking it. You can put the thumbnail back up. I just want to point this out. Whenever he got in too tight, clinch every time. I'm going to kick you at your range, at my range. I'm going to box you at my range, and that is it. There would be no other offense except if we get in tight. Any of these other ranges between us, I'm just not going to fight you on. All right, and he gets out of it, and then throws a shot. Oh, here real quickly. How did he get in more body work? Put it up, please. Very quickly. Sneaky, sneaky stuff like that. And then pushing him away. Thumbnail one more time. I promise. I promise. Let's see. Clinches again. So you get the idea. There's more clinching. More clinching. Ba-da-da-da-da. And then the last one. Last thing I'll show you on Jon Jones. We'll look real quickly at Ryan Hall. Let's zoom in here a little bit. Right? So you can see it here. This is the beginning of the third round. Gustafsson landed one punch in this round. Remember when I said he'll box you on his terms. So he's on the outside. He is circling, as he always does, clockwise. Gus pushing in clockwise. Jon waits for him, throws a shot. Gustafsson tries to come over the top. Jon slips it. And now what do you think is going to happen? If you know anything about boxing, you're going to think this is going to come over the top like that, right? So he fakes it like it's coming up, but Gustafsson reads it, so he pulls back. Then, let me watch this so you can see the timing. He just waits, and as Gustafsson steps, Spink catches him on the half beat. Bink, just like that. This is what I'm talking about. I'll box you as I'm moving away and tricking you and coming around the gloves. You had blocked the shot that you thought the combo was coming from, so I'm going to pull back, make you think I don't want it anymore. Look how far back he looks out of range, right? Beltran, the referee, is covering him. And instead, he just goes and catches him on the half beat again, knowing he can reach him because he's measured distance and he can just time it. But what does he do? He moves away. And then eventually, put the thumbnail back up, eventually you saw what happened. He gets the takedown, and from there, he was able to just control him and get on top. We'll go back to the last slide here in just a minute, but that is how you get it done. You take all the things that the guy did to you in the first one, and you just take them all away. What do you see the very best fighters in MMA doing? Your Jon Joneses, your Max Holloways, you pick it. For the most part, what they have is a modular game. They have things that they're good at. They have things that they're not so good at. But for the most part, what they're able to do is just rearrange the pieces of their game and the strategy to take away everything you're good at and keep everything that they're good at. That's what they do. Very quickly. Put it back up, please. Let's go watch this Ryan Hall thing very, very fast because I know we're running short on time. Ryan Hall fades left, right? Then I like this, he's gonna kick the outside, he's gonna bring it back to a shooting position, and then immediately, whoop, he goes in. On an Imanari roll, you wanna be behind, he goes behind the knee. Some people go behind the ankle, but whatever. I'm not gonna tell Ryan Hall what to do. Trust me, he knows this about a billion times better than I ever could. And then the head needs to go on the inside, which it does, right, between the legs. From there, you're gonna watch him get the clamp over the back. Look at his left leg. He brings his hips in the air. He is inverting, hips in the air, and then shoulders on the mat, clamps the leg. Here's what I love. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. That. He's going to use that to trip BJ. BJ tries to get away, and Ryan just holds the leg, pushes up into him. Look, Ryan's collapsed like an accordion. He extends. Watch. Whoop. Extends, and then blocks BJ's other leg. And look at the foot behind the head. He's bringing everything out and forward and down while blocking the balancing leg, so BJ goes naturally to his hands. You can see that Ryan still has control of the other leg here, right? Pretty nice stuff. So then, I got to get through this pretty fast. This is a 50-50. I had a nice discussion with somebody on Twitter who thought they had a different perspective on this. At first, I thought BJ went the wrong way in trying to get out of this, because you'll see here, Ryan lets go of it, and BJ knows he's in trouble, tries to roll, and by that time, it's too late. I mean, look at that pain, right? What's one thing you need to notice about a heel hook? People think a heel hook is taking an ankle and wrenching it across your body. It is not. It is getting their toes tucked in nice to your ribs, elbow to that, and it's taking their toes towards their body. It's not this, although some wrenching motion will happen. It's more a dig in. You're driving everything back, and you want, as much as possible, for this leg to be bent. Because if it's straight, you can actually just roll out of it. So you want that bent as much as possible, which is what you see here. Anyway, so he bends it, and that's it. So what was BJ trying to do if he was not trying to roll this way, and he was actually trying to roll that way? What's the difference here? The difference is that if you roll the way this way, you can actually drive the trapped ankle to the floor. And if you drop the trapped ankle to the floor, then you can begin to put weight on it and stand and sit up, and there's ways to escape. But as it just so happens, I thought he was going to roll because, look, his hips are already facing the mat. You might as well just roll this way as opposed to trying to come back this way. It's too late in my judgment, but, you know, we're talking about two guys who are the best, some of the best to ever do the sport. So there you go. You can put the thumbnail back up. I know we went a little bit long. Again, I'm not asking you to like Jon Jones. I'm not asking you to think that he never did anything wrong in his career. I'm not asking you to think anything like that. Here's what I am trying to tell you. You just see the level of strategy and the level of execution. You look at the efficiency of it and the smarts of it. You just have to come away with the conclusion that that's one of the smarter fighters with some of the highest fight IQ that's in the game today. You don't have to like that fact. You don't have to even... you can detest that fact, but whatever you want to think about it, it's a fact. There's your Monday Morning Analyst.